This is how punch-drunk tomato cans speak to themselves. Do you know what a punch-drunk tomato can is? A punch-drunk tomato can is it's an old boxing term when I was in the fight game, where a guy has taken too many shots to the head, where now he's a zombie. He's not able to think deeply. He's got no focus. A lot like today's iPhone junkies, people suffering from digital dementia, zombies, drones walking around, literally sleepwalking through their life. You want to make sure you're doing the exact opposite. Punch, drunk, tomato cans, civilians, normies in 2024. The biggest thing I've noticed, and you can even take it into my Mastermind members or the hundreds of people that I work with in my Badass Brotherhood, is one of the big things that I notice between the difference between high performance people, top 1% in whatever they do. High performance people speak to themselves very, very differently than even top 5% or the 80%, 85%, 90% normies. And I've picked up this in my hockey coaching days. I coached minor pro, I coached junior, I had my own 2 franchises. We won a league championship in 2019. I've employed hundreds of people. I've worked with thousands and thousands of elite, generous, and driven business owners. But one of the biggest things that makes the difference between the best of the best, whether it's a person making the money they want, making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, whether they have the marriage that's on fire, the sex life that's on fire, the special connection with their children or grandchildren, their time management skills. A big one is how mentally tough are they? Are they emotionally drunk or are they mentally tough? And the difference between high performance people and everybody else is how they speak to themselves. And this is a correction I made in my life 22 years ago. I used to say things to myself. I used to have words in my vocabulary that were loser talk. It was simple. It was loser talk. And my dad, who's 91 years young, was an entrepreneur until the age of 85, 75 years in the business trenches. And he said to me one day, he goes, "That's loser talk. That's how a loser speaks to themselves." And if I recall, I had said something to myself. I had said can't, or I had said, try, or I said I forget what the word was. And my dad just stood up behind the desk. He says, "That's how losers talk. That's how losers talk to themselves." And I remember reading Bruce Lee's biography years ago, and he talked about the importance of language, how you speak to yourself. And he said, the reason it's called spelling words is because we literally cast spells subconsciously and consciously by the way we talk to ourselves day after day. The way we talk to ourselves literally casts a spell, and words become reality. So I took this to an all new level because I knew the power of how you speak to yourself. Most civilians and most normies, they talk to themselves in a very toxic fashion. They're radioactive to themselves. They say things like, "I'll try that," or they'll say things like, "I'm tired," or "I'm sick," or "I'm depressed," or "I'm anxious," or "I'm broke," or money doesn't grow on trees. Whatever it is, these are all self-limiting beliefs that you're adding gasoline to that fire. Whatever self-limiting beliefs you got as a young person, your mom, your dad, a teacher, a minister, a coach, whatever it is, we all have self-limiting beliefs. It could be about money, it could be about abundance, it could be about success, it could be any self-limiting belief. Well, then we just pound them, we just pound those self-limiting beliefs with negative self-talk. And I pick up on this stuff now. Like I see the red flags immediately. And with my hockey teams, with my junior hockey championship teams in Perth, pretty simple. There was a few things that were considered swearing. These words were considered cussing. And one of the words was try. My 23 athletes, you never ever heard in the weight room, in the video room, in the locker room, on ice, in a game, in a practice, you never ever heard the word try. Another word that was a cuss word in our culture, our championship culture, was tired. You never heard an athlete, a first-year player, a fourth-year player, I don't give a shit who it was, you never ever heard that word. We'd be on the ice for 2 hours. These guys would be literally going through hell in practice. They had been in the weight room, whatever it was, and you wouldn't hear a peep from anybody saying, you know, oh, I'm tired. Tired was a cuss word. I didn't want them speaking to themselves like that. You know, another one was, I used this in my home with my 11-year-old daughter, is the word can't. A couple of times, you know, when she was younger, we'd be driving to school or I'd be bringing her home from school, and like everybody else, she would say, you know, I'm not sure, I can't do that. And I'd give her the Mickey from Rocky. There's no such thing as can't. And she would just snap out of it, and she's like, you're right. Success starts with cans, not with can'ts. There's no such thing as can't. No such thing as try. You either do or you don't do. And there's no such thing as tired. There's no such thing as tired in sports. Like all that Navy SEAL where when your brain says you're tired, you still have 60% left to go. That's how much you have in the tank. The Navy SEALs know this, right? When your brain tries to sabotage you with fatigue, with tiredness, the Navy SEALs have been trained, okay, I got 60% left in the tank. Your brain is lying to you. It's playing tricks on you, and military elites like the SEALs understand this is just a lie. I still got 60, I still got fuel for 60% more. So when you get this loser language out of your vocabulary, you hear a lot about when people have a scarcity mindset, when they think that if they make money, somebody else loses money. If they're successful, somebody else fails. And nothing could be further from the truth, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. But I can tell whether a person has an abundance mindset, a wealth mindset, or they have a scarcity mindset by the way they talk. They'll say things like, you know, I can't afford it. It's one of the worst things you can ever say to yourself. Oh, this book will change your life, or this seminar will change your life, or you know, joining the gym will change your life, or meeting this person will change your life. Oh, I can't afford it. Like what could be more radioactive to your personal growth and happiness? So they'll say things like, well, money doesn't grow on trees, and they're penny pinchers, and they're bargain hunters, and they're cheapskates, and they literally try to save their way to abundance, which doesn't work. But what I did 22 years ago is I deputized a handful of people in my life that I respect. And what I did is I said, listen, these are words that I've starved out of my vocabulary. These are words that I'm not using anymore. One of them was try, one of them was can't, one of them was, it doesn't really matter, fatigued. One of them was, you know, try, can't, any of those words. I said, I'm getting rid of this loser language. And I had people that would see me every day, and I said, listen, I'm deputizing you. And if you hear me say these loser words, these tomato can words, you call me on it right away. And they only had to do this for a couple of weeks until I was made aware of the fact that I was using these negative words, this toxic language, and then I self-corrected. And we do the same thing in our home now. Like, you know, if Krista, my wife Krista, hears me say something, whining, complaining, or making excuses, that's a rule I live by. No whining, no complaining, no excuses. if she hears me whining and complaining and making excuses, she'll call me on it in the kitchen. She'll say, that sounds like a lot of whine to me. Or do you want me to call the Wambulance? And it just snaps me right out of it. When I hear my 11-year-old, she might be complaining about somebody or making an excuse or just, not using uplifting championship language. And I'll say, do you want me to call the Wambulance? And we laugh and it snaps us out of it. So how we speak to ourselves is massive. The language you're using today becomes your reality tomorrow. And I think that the best thing you can do heading into a new year, these last 2 months, is do an inventory check of how you really speak to yourself. How do you really speak to yourself? I had guys in my mastermind there, some of these guys that are killing it, absolutely killing it. And I listen to the way a guy like Billy Wagner speaks to himself. I listen to how Doberman Dan speaks to himself. I listen to, how these guys speak to themselves, and it's no wonder that they're doing so well. They're literally putting the words into their conscious and subconscious that become reality down the road. They speak to themselves, like, be relentless. What can I learn from this? How can I get even better? Compare that to can't, or I tried, or money doesn't grow on trees, or I'm not lucky, or I'm dumb, or I never went to college. All of that self-limiting language is just trash. It's mental trash. So the guys that struggle in my mastermind, the guys that struggle in my program, one of the things I get them to immediately fix is the way they speak to themselves. And you can see the difference. This has never worked for me. I'm not a good writer. I've never been good with marketing. All this stuff. I've never been an athlete. I've never been good with money. And we can't achieve anything until I get that shit language literally starved out of their vocabulary. And then once they start talking to themselves better and better, especially before they close their eyes at night, because the way you talk to yourself, your subconscious then uses that over the next 8 hours when you're sleeping, their lives start to transform. All of a sudden, their life starts to fill with money and with health and with good people and with happiness and with abundance, because they're talking to themselves like a champion. They're talking to themselves like a winner, and they're building abundance in their mind. And like Bruce Lee said, he said, it's a spell. Words are a spell. And nothing, I think, is more important than language and how you speak to yourself. If you'd like a copy of my brand new book, 5 Ways to Unfuck Your Life in the Next 30 Days, you can download it at the link below, brassballsvideos.com. It's a 22-page PDF, my gift to you. It'll take you 20 minutes to read. It's just a word of warning about the book. This book is not every entrepreneur's cup of whiskey. I wrote this book for winners, not for whiners, for champions, not for chumps. So if that sounds like your cup of Earl Grey, download it as my gift. If it's not, that's perfectly okay as well. Just remember, language matters. How you speak to yourself matters. Deputize a couple of people in your life to clean up the words and the phrases and the scarcity language that's in the toxic language that's in your life. And just every day for the next 2 months heading into a new year, keep speaking to yourself as a winner, speak to yourself as a champion, speak to yourself as a grateful, wealthy person, healthy person, happy person, and watch that reality. Those words will become reality in the real world. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that'll change yours. Be relentless.